Hello, and welcome to this demonstration of the steps needed to deliver your IBM spool file reports and database data to SharePoint using CoolSpools. So why is it particularly difficult to deliver reports and data to SharePoint? After all, SharePoint document folders provide a useful location to store documents and share them with your team. But documents are not stored on a traditional file server. Instead, they're stored using a proprietary file management system that cannot be accessed using industry standard mechanisms such as FTP. And so, while it's true that CoolSpools allows you to convert IBM spool file reports and database tables to a variety of output formats, such as PDF, Excel, and XML, and to deliver the converted documents using FTP, if SharePoint document folders do not support FTP delivery, then how can CoolSpools deliver any converted documents from the IBM server to SharePoint? Well, that's the question we'll be answering in this demo. Your IBM server contains data in database tables and spool file reports in output queues. What CoolSpools allows us to do is convert our IBM spool file reports, either on demand or automatically as they arrive in output queues, to an output document format such as PDF. You can also convert from your database tables, SQL select statements or query 400 queries to an output format such as Excel. CoolSpools can then deliver these files using FTP, but we've already said that SharePoint does not support the delivery of files using FTP. However, CoolSpools also supports the delivery of these files as email attachments. And if we deliver the files to an Office 365 mailbox in the same domain as our SharePoint site, then a Power Automate flow can automatically take the attachments of these emails and save them into our SharePoint document folder. So this diagram provides an overview of the mechanism through which you can deliver your IBM reports and data to SharePoint document folders using a combination of CoolSpools and Power Automate. The CoolSpools website includes a guide that covers the steps that are needed. Let's walk through these steps now. Step 1 is to create a shared mailbox within Office 365 to receive the emails. There's a link provided here, however we would recommend that you check the latest Microsoft documentation. From the Manage Mailboxes screen we click Add a Shared Mailbox and enter a meaningful display name and email address. In our case, we've created a mailbox named SharePoint. The second step is to create a Power Automate flow. Again, there's a link provided, but we'd recommend that you check the latest Microsoft documentation. So to create a new flow, select My Flows from the menu on the left-hand side, and then click on New Flow, and rather than using a template, select Automated Cloud Flow. You can give the flow a meaningful name, such as Deliver to SharePoint, and you need to select a trigger. You can search for Shared Mailbox, and then select when a new email arrives in a shared mailbox. Click on Create, and the flow design page appears. The trigger box is already selected and we need to enter the parameters. So the original mailbox address is the email address of the mailbox we created. Then under Advanced Parameters, both Only with Attachments and Include Attachments should be set to Yes, and the folder should be set to the default value of Inbox. We need to tell the flow what to do with the emails, so click on the plus symbol under the trigger and select Add an Action. We want to process each attachment on the email, so search for the action Apply to Each and select it. At first you'll be told that the Apply to Each action has invalid parameters. That's because we need to select the output from the previous step, so we can search for and select attachments. Now, whatever actions we add within this apply to each box will be run for each attachment of the email. Click on the plus symbol inside the apply to each box and select add an action, then search for create file and select the create file action underneath SharePoint. Once again, we need to specify the parameters of the action, select the address of the SharePoint site, and then enter the path to the document folder on that site. This could be a static value such as /reports, or you can use formulas to include dynamic data such as the current date. You can also use formulas in the file name, for example, to ensure uniqueness, but we're just going to select the attachment name. And for the file content, we'll just select the attachment content type. Once you're happy with your flow, just click on the Save button, and you now have a Power Automate flow to pick up emails from your Office 365 shared mailbox and save the attachments into the SharePoint document folder. Here's a slightly more complicated example. In this case, the flow is checking the attributes of the email and saving the document into a different location depending on those attributes. It's also deleting the email from the shared mailbox at the end of processing. Now that we've created our shared mailbox and Power Automate flow, our final step, step 3, is to use the CoolSpools commands to convert our spool file reports and data to output file formats such as PDF and Excel, and to deliver those documents as email attachments to our new shared mailbox. Starting with the delivery of database data, we can use the command CVTDBFXLSX to convert a database table to Excel. If we prompt the command, we can see that the first parameter is the name of the database table that we're converting, in this case customer. By default, the name of the Excel spreadsheet that's generated will be derived from the name of the source database file, but we can put in any value that we want. We must set this parameter, email the output, to yes, and then we can fill in the email related parameters such as the email subject, sender, and the email recipient, which needs to be the email address of the shared mailbox that we created. We can enter the body text of the message, and while we're not expecting anyone to read this, some mail servers do reject messages without a message body. And when we press enter, we can see that CoolSpools has successfully converted the data to Excel and sent it as an email message. Here is that email in the shared mailbox, and if we wait, we should see the email being automatically deleted by the Power Automate flow. If we navigate to Power Automate again in our web browser and drill down into our flow, we can see the run history, and there's a new entry dated today with the status of succeeded. If we navigate to the document folders on our SharePoint site, we can see that the customer data from our IBM I server has been delivered as an Excel spreadsheet. So we've seen how easy it can be to deliver our IBM I data to SharePoint. Now let's see if we can do the same with our IBM I spool file reports. We'll start by creating an output queue named SharePoint, and then we'll navigate through the CoolSpools menu system to the Spool Admin menu. This is where we can configure the monitoring of output queues. If we start with option 21, this allows us to work with the spool file monitors and define which output queues are being monitored for automated processing. Press F6 to add a new monitor, and generally we would give the monitor the same name as the output queue that's being monitored, so in this case SharePoint. Then press enter to confirm. Now that the monitor SharePoint has been created, whenever a new spool file arrives in the output queue SharePoint, CoolSpools will check if there's any automated processing required. Next, we'll take option 23 to work with spool file rules. The rules define what action needs to be taken for the different spool files that arrive in a monitored output queue. Again, it's F6 to add, and we'll name our new rule SharePoint. There are various filters here that CoolSpools will compare against the spool file attributes to decide which rules apply. We want the rule to apply to any spool files in the output queue SharePoint. If we page down, we can specify that we want to run option 20 when a spool file matches this rule, And option 20 is the option to convert a spool file to PDF and send it by email. If we leave the option parameters as the default value prompt, then the command will be prompted so that we can adjust the parameters as needed. As with the database conversion command earlier, we can specify the email parameters, including the email recipient. Press enter to confirm, and now we've created our new rule. Because our new configuration included the creation of a new monitor, we need to stop and restart some background jobs. Option 32 will end the background processing jobs, and then option 31 will restart them. Now, if we go to our spool files in the work spool file command, if we take this query output report, we can move it to the output queue SharePoint, and that's all we should need to do to deliver that report as a PDF document to our document folder on SharePoint. And if we go to the SharePoint document folder, we can see that there's a new PDF document here, and this is the PDF representation of that spool file report from our IBM I server. All we had to do to deliver it to SharePoint was move it to a different output queue. I hope that this has been helpful. You can find further information on CoolSpools commands on our website www.coolspools.com, including that guide to setting up the delivery of reports and data to SharePoint using CoolSpools and Power Automate.